G'day, this is Glenn. And today we're going to do a non-word specific. We're just going to talk about what pronunciation is. And this comes from a question I got from someone who watched a video on the translation video, and they asked me why I didn't include pronunciation. Well, in this case, we're just going to talk with transliteration, which is a little bit like pronunciation. But basically, pronunciation is spoken word. You speak, you pronounce things with your mouth and your voice box. Transliteration is just the written form, how you write it down on paper, how you change it from a text or alphabet that's in the language of origin. So we're just going to say Chinese, ngo, which means me, and then you take it from the Chinese characters and you put it in the Latin alphabet, because that's what I can read, the Latin, and then you write it as NGOH or just OH. If you're not too familiar with Cantonese, their pronunciation has changed over the last 100 years. It's generally dropped the ngo and just gone to o. And basically that is what transliteration is. Now, pronunciation is actually how I pronounce that word with my mouth. So as I just said, there are two ways you can pronounce me, or ngo in Cantonese, and that's basically what pronunciation is between languages. But there is also differences in pronunciation in languages. Like I'm speaking Australian English, so how I pronounce my words in Australian English will be different than how someone from the UK. In the UK is like 20 plus different accents. And someone from New Zealand, which only has one type of accent, which is pretty similar to Australian, but does have differences in the way they pronounce words. Like we say choice, they say choice. So their vowels are actually different in their pronunciation. What other words in the Kiwi language can they pronounce differently? G'day mate. They probably pronounce it like that, and I'd say g'day mate. So mine's more rounded. This is more flows into the consonants, their vowels. Also, North American English does have about between 10 and 15 different accents depending on where you come from, and those do vary quite specifically. And if you live in North America, you probably understand where someone comes from based on their accent. And even in Australia, we have different types. There's basically the one accent, that's pretty much the educated one, which a lot of people are. But then you've got the broad accent, which is more like a rough and turby, working class, probably an older accent. Then you've got the cultivated one, which is those that have a lot of money or are really educated in certain aspects actually have. Hello, how you going? Yeah. And the broad one is g'day mate, fuck yeah. Or we're gonna go around and bang my wife. Yeah, that was a bit crude, but I don't give a shit. And then you got Aboriginal accents. So yeah mate, gotta go. Gotta go to my country. No, that was definitely not an Aboriginal. I can't do Aboriginal accents. And they also have Creoles in English. And there's also other ones. The most common one is the accent from people from the Mediterranean. Their accents combine into Oh mate, what you doing? Let's go out and get some chicks, mate. Their accent is something like that. And it's pretty much just the way they speak, just the way they're brought up. Not the first generation that come here, but the second. And the third generation generally adopt the normal accent that I'm speaking now. So that one's pretty much, it's actually dying out, which I call it the Waggy accent. But anyway, you can say it's a Mediterranean accent, which basically it is because it covers, like Greeks, Turks, Arabs, Italians, not Spanish because we don't have many Spanish here. So their pronunciation will be different than mine. And that's basically what pronunciation is. How you learn to speak a word. So my pronunciation of pronunciation, different than the English one. Pronunciation, or a North American pronunciation. So just that word pronunciation is different pronunciations in different accents. And because it's linguistics, I'd say a lot of other languages have actually adopted that word. So their version of pronunciation will be also different. And you have to remember is that pronunciations in a language would change over time as well. So pronunciation that we use now is going to be different from 2, 500, and 1,000 years now. This is how languages change. Because they just do. So probably with the younger generation changing it a little bit. So the next generation will probably change a little bit, change the slang. Some of those words get adopted. So if you go 1,000 years ago, Old English is totally different than what modern English is now. And a lot of has to do with the Norman invasion and the adoption of a lot of Romance grammar in our language. And also, it has to do with whether the language is dominant or not. So, a dominant language would adopt less words than a less dominant language. Those that are submissive would adopt a lot of words of the dominant language group, which can also change the pronunciation of that language over time. So, one language I can think of is Korean. I think that's about 60% grammar and vocabulary is adopted from Chinese. So that pronunciation would have actually changed from the old Goyal language that was spoken, which would have been more pure, to the one we have now, which it actually sounds a lot like in between Mandarin and Japanese. That's just my take on Korean anyway. It's a language in its own right, it's awesome. So anyway, I hope this helps you with pronunciation, what it is. But I wouldn't worry about learning what it actually means. I would just learn how to pronounce your words properly in the language and the accent that you want to speak. So thank you very much for watching my video. I hope it was helpful. And just keep learning those languages because they're awesome. 再見啦嘛〜